Throwback series, we're going to be discussing The Crow. So for those who are not familiar with The Crow, it's a 1994 film starring the late Brandon Lee as Eric Draven / The Crow, and it's based on the 1989 comic of the same name written by James O'Barr. And the film opens up with several police officers investigating a crime scene in which one of the victims, Eric Draven, has been shot, stabbed, and thrown out the window. His girlfriend, Shelley Webster, has been beaten and raped, and she eventually dies in intensive care.
If we're going with chronological purposes, he was stabbed, shot, and thrown out a window.
Yes. As Ben has said, he was stabbed, shot, then thrown out the window. 1 year later, which is, I guess, it's on the anniversary, right?
Devil's Night, yep. It's like a day before, 2 days before.
Eric is brought back, obviously through supernatural means, and he makes it his mission to essentially track down each of the men who are responsible for their deaths and make them pay. And through his link with the Crow, he has the ability to regenerate, so he can sustain severe wounds and basically heal quickly. And and it's a really beautiful film in terms of the way it's shot. I love the aesthetic. It's very 90s. It's very goth.
Grunge.
And I also read that at the time that he came out, that's when I think the goth sort of, or grunge subculture, is that, I know, I'm just going to say, well, according to what I read, at the time that this film was released, the soundtrack became incredibly popular.
Yeah.
And it still is pretty popular. I think it.
I listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Golgotha, Tenement Blues.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
So it's. I'm not really you're throwing these names out at me. I have no clue who you're talking about, but that's okay. Sorry. So it's sort of lost on me.
Don't apologize, Simona. It's okay.
Listen, you're hosting this. Don't apologize.
And please feel free, because I don't want to feel like I'm the one only talking.
Ben, this is your movie.
Yeah.
I know, it is your movie.
Certainly.
Kinda,
Certainly.
It's your movie.
You guys made me introduce Fight Club. And,
Yeah, so...
You didn't like introducing Fight Club?
I'm not a big introducer. I feel like I contribute. I don't know that I can drive.
I understand.
You know what I mean? I'm a passenger on this journey.
Some of us have to learn
that
to
might
drive.
be making the playlist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you'll never know if you can drive.
In most film circles, The Crow is looked back on as one of the preeminent movies of the 1990s, right next to Pulp Fiction, right next to Fight Club.
It was very 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It had that 90s look, didn't it?
And it was shot...
You knew you were watching a 90s movie.
Oh, yeah.
Shot by Darius Wolski, to this day, is one of the very best cinematographers out there.
Can you give us some other things that he's done? Because that name's not familiar.
Prometheus. He shot the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh.
I love those
He
movies.
shot... he works with Ridley Scott a lot. He shot basically most Ridley Scott movies. He's working with Darius Wolski.
Nice. Did you do
Interview
Gladiator?
with the Van.
No, that was John Matheson, I think.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. John Matheson, though, I think.
We did Gods of Egypt.
Also with the same director of The Crow. He just worked with that director again. Gods of Egypt is a bad movie that looks kind of great and has way too many special effects. So yeah, I have no hate for that movie. I think it gets
trip of a
movie. Silly as hell and totally
I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, Gods of Egypt is. I think it gets a worse rap than it deserves. The Crow gets much of the appreciation that it deserves. I'm curious about what you guys thought of this movie.
I love this movie. Of the Crow films that were made, and they made a few along with the television series. So after this, they made The Crow City of Angels in 1996, The Crow Salvation in 2000, The Crow Wicked Prayer in 2005, and then The Crow Stairway to Heaven, which was the TV series.
Starring Mark Dacascos.
Yeah. Of those
John Wick fame.
Films, the first Crow is obviously the superior of all of them.
Yeah.
Wicked Prayer, God bless it.
So Wicked
Bless
Prayer
its heart.
Should not have been made. Oh my God.
The third and fourth Crow movie were direct-to-video, when direct-to-video actually meant a bad thing. The second one isn't a great film, but it's gorgeous. It's shot with all these beautiful neons and
I mean,
and bright colors. And
my introduction, I don't mean to interrupt you, Ben.
but please do.
But my introduction to The Crow was City of Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, I was a little, like, I was creeped out by it.
Yeah, it's creepy stuff. It's
Yeah.
like the all the wax candle burning, which isn't
Yeah.
that bad, but like
No.
all the weird like plastic
Those creepy ass
strippers.
candles, huh?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of like there's definitely a hardcore S&M like theme rocking the second Crow movie, but it was also just had some really good moments.
Yeah.
Like, really hypnotic scenes, but nothing that quite touched what the first one did.
No. And although The Crow isn't something that I would be drawn to, and it's not something that I would just watch on my own, I don't really have an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate what you have been talking about it, like the cinematography and Brandon Lee, and I didn't actually realize that it was a graphic novel that was turned into a movie.
The graphic novel is kind of interesting.
It does take a different turn.
Yeah.
And the villains are all like they use the same names in the film, but the villains they represent different villains in the graphic novel. Like I think T-Bird or Fun Boy is the actual main villain, whereas like Top Dollar is someone else in the graphic novel. Anyway, it's irrelevant. What did I want to say? What has I think aged so well about this movie are the models, the little city models that they built. These things are basically the size of this table, built in like perfect detail, and they just swooped the camera through it, and it just has this gorgeous, timeless look about it.
It's like what George Lucas did in the trench run on
Yeah.
the final battle against the Death Star.
Like you can tell that it's old, but it just looks right.
Yeah.
And it's all around. Yeah, this movie is.
Old school practical effects.
Considering this is the first week of Halloween time, it's a good movie to kick off Halloween time.
Definitely is, and I actually read the graphic novel, the first one, because I didn't realize he had written others with the Crow character. I read it because after watching the film, I was curious to read what the film was based on, the original work. It is very different. I mean, essentially the theme is the same, where the character of Eric is resurrected and wants to get revenge for his death and the rape and death of his fiance or girlfriend. But the character in the comics is more insane. I mean, in the film he has moments of like insanity, but in the comic he's really insane. And yeah, it's just so I was so surprised like at how different it was. But he's very much insane, and the Crow actually talks in the comics, which it doesn't do in the films. And the Crow often mocks Eric whenever he has like moments of weakness. Yeah. And I think he also self-harms, throughout the graphic novel.
And one thing that was eliminated from the film, they really did make an effort, but it just wasn't working, was the Skull Cowboy. And the Skull Cowboy who's very much apparent in the graphic novel, sort of like the guide for Eric Draven, and makes it very clear, you're here for one thing, and your one thing is to get revenge on the people who did this. And if you do anything else, you lose your power and you're vulnerable. And it was touched upon in the movie, but they made it, it turned it into if the Crow was damaged, then Eric could be vulnerable. Right. But really, it was because he made all the efforts with Sarah and veered away from
interesting.
Doing things that were just revenge. And that's why in the edit, if you see when he takes out Fun Boy, which is, I think, my favorite Crow revenge moment, is when he hops into the room while he's trying to get in high with Sarah's mom. And, makes the guy shoot himself in the leg and passes out. He squeezes the heroin out of her arm, and then he's looking at this needle. There's the deleted scene where Fun Boy, just high as a kite with his bullet in his leg, just starts cutting Eric up with a knife like crazy, just slashing him to bits. And in the next scene, after this is all over, and he takes out Fun Boy anyway, you can see all these new cuts and tape marks all over Eric. And it's because they edited that scene out, because there was no, he wasn't. They weren't going with the, oh, you're sidetracking, so now you're vulnerable thing.
It's hard to add with comics being turned into movies. It can be very hard to
any
add
adaptation.
every single detail, especially if you don't know if it's gonna do well or
Well, do we know the reason why they took out the skeleton cowboy?
So they cast the actor, the one from The Hills Have Eyes, really unique face, head. The original Hills Have Eyes from the 70s. He's a very famous horror movie actor, and they put him in all this makeup, and they said it just wasn't working. It wasn't working for the story they were trying to tell. It was diverting it and slowing things down. So
I
they
could
just
see
took
it
out.
giving it a different, especially with the aesthetic they're going for, which does match the comics because it was black and white in the comics, and so you're trying to also replicate this. It's kind of like the Sin City-esque kind of feel. You're trying to get the feel of the comics, and it feels like if this is kind of like a mute-colored world, and then all of a sudden you have a flaming skull guy.
No, that's Ghost Rider. He's not in this movie. Skull Cowboy is just
Skull Cowboy. Sorry,
yeah, he's just a guy in a coat, and he's got a skull head, and he has a hat.
It might feel weird if there's just a guy on a.
And you can see
cowboy
you can find
randomly
the deleted scenes, and he's standing there in the rain at the church, and knowing the movie, I can't tell if it's out of place anymore because I'm so used to seeing the movie one way that seeing it as an extra, it doesn't fit for me, but maybe it would if it was in there originally. What was the other thing I wanted to talk about? When Brandon Lee died.
Yeah, so we're jumping into that, all right?
I mean,
Let's do
that's
it.
basically the biggest thing.
Yeah,
about
let's say that for
this
the
movie is-
final half of this, actually, because there's a lot to talk about
Oh, yeah.
there. Because you can't talk about this movie without talking about that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's it's so weirdly, poetically tragic about this movie about someone who dies.
He died early in the filming of it too, didn't he?
Most of the shots were done. There are only a handful of shots where it's not him, it's a model or a stand-in or some digital effects, which you can tell now, but you couldn't quite tell back then. But for the most part, he had taken care of most of his work was done. But man, we'll save that.
Yeah.
Opinions.
Well, I'm sorry, were you gonna?
No.
Well, one of the more beautiful moments for me is the end where after Eric has fulfilled his purpose, he goes to Shelley's grave and he's basically saying, "I'm coming." And then you see Shelley, and it's so beautiful the way it's shot because she's dressed all in white. She's very much this angelic presence, and she comes to him, and she's the one, they share this hug, and she's the one that takes him back to the afterlife. A part of me was curious. I mean, I understand that this comic was also written because the writer had lost his girlfriend tragically as well. I'm curious because Shelley also died very violently. So I'm curious why, and I know it's the story, it's the crow, it's the guy that does it, but almost why wouldn't she also have been held back with the need for revenge? Because she died just as tragically as he did. I'm kind of curious, if you have thoughts on maybe why he didn't want to go that route.
I would chalk that up to just it was written by a dude in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
It is
don't
true
think
also,
if you
it's
wanna
when people die
analyze-
tragically.
it's his perspective, kind of.
If you
Okay.
want to analyze it, though, maybe it's because no, never mind. That don't work either. Because he
No,
doesn't
say
see
it.
Because he doesn't see her die. I was gonna say maybe it's because he sees her die, so he wants the vengeance, but he doesn't see her die because she dies
She
30
also
hours
might
later.
be the kind of person who, even in death and horrible things happen, it's
Yeah.
I'm not saying she forgives, but at the same time she's
She doesn't-
she doesn't hold the grudge.
Right, she doesn't
Usually what
want
keeps
vengeance.
somebody as a vengeful spirit in any culture is usually a lingering sense of hatred.
Or
So she
resentment.
might have been, I think that was the point of her character. She was never a hateful person. She kind of brought the best out in people, even him. That's kind of their dynamic, is he was a better person when she was around. Everybody was a better person when she was around. She was always there to help those in need and stuff like that. She was a pure soul.
She was gorgeous too.
Oh yeah, no.
Like-
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Those,
So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where she might
like,
she might not have died with
it's like
hate
Shelley.
like he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas he's oh no.
And I think that's speaking how like beautiful she was and their relationship, and like those little flashbacks where like she accidentally sets the pot on fire, or like just when they're kissing at the bed. There was so much like I still feel like the high watermark for chemistry is Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss in The Matrix, but that's the same kind of like you just feel it's just so well done, and they're just so connected that it makes that movie just really compelling. And you basically never saw them as an actual couple. You had snippets, and that was it. And it was just enough to work. That and the cat, Gabriel, who's definitely dead now. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Just to put that nail in the coffin.
This movie was my first experience with like just being hypnotized by a sequence, and it was. And it could be like the most cliche thing, the sword fight at the top of the church. And you have like that ethereal music playing in the background with that like slow drum beat, and the rain's pouring down as they're fighting each other, and the ring slowly rolls off the side. And yeah, that was the first time in my cinematic experience that I was just like taken out of my body watching something. It was really, really incredible stuff.
And I have another question. This might be very obvious, but going back to when Eric goes to the pawn shop to get the ring.
Yeah.
So what I noticed, and maybe it's because he still doesn't have his complete memory, because he's holding the ring almost to sense which one it is. Like, I kind of thought, like, wouldn't he have recognized the ring? But maybe he still didn't fully have his memories.
Well, he's been dead for a year, maybe, you know.
Okay.
Rings are, I don't know.
Also, as they say in Pet Sematary, the thing that usually comes back from the dead is not fully the thing that, comes back. It's not who you knew. This is a different... It's him, but it's not fully...
Okay.
He's not fully there.
Like practical magic.
Exactly. It's like the thing you summon is never... The thing that comes back from the dead is not the person you knew necessarily. Not 100% the person. It's always... There's always a bit of added extra.
There's nothing to indicate that he wasn't fully him. No. I think he just felt the ring that was hers, and it was like a moment of their connection.
It's kind of like when Frodo grabs the ring. You feel it. Like it's like
feel how powerful.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's why Gandalf won't even touch it.
Well, he's an angel, and he's like, "Nah, get the out of here."
So I think that's same lines.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
So this was the first time I saw The Crow.
Oh.
And
Sweet.
I gotta be honest with you guys, I pretty much loved every minute of it. I was really into it. It was 90s. It felt 90s. I think are parts meant to be humorous?
Yes.
All right. Because when he gets shot through the hand
really
and starts laughing, I died, man. I was done. And I really thought everything was really cool. Even the scenes, and I feel like I've mocked these kinds of things in movies before, with the crazy gunfights and everything, and people are jumping around with two guns, and I'm like, wow, my God, those are some amazing clips they have. They must have like triple extended clips, but like for some reason I was digging it, and I kept thinking, when the whole movie, I'm like, man, I wish this crow would do something to help this guy out a little bit. And then at the end, he jabs out the eyes of the girl, and then she goes falling down, and Ernie Hudson's sitting there shot, and all I wanted was for Ernie Hudson to say some kind of cheesy punny line, being like, or she's not going to wake up from that, or something like that. You know what I mean? But then I was like, okay, this isn't the 80s.
See that
the
coming.
90s. So
There was during that big action scene, there was this like really fun moment that I can't imagine it was intended, where this guy runs out of ammo trying to empty it on Eric, and Eric like kicks the gun out of his hand and then shoots as he smiles at the guy, but just as the strobe light catches his smile.
Yeah.
And it's like little moments like that throughout that whole sequence. They're just like when the last one left is Skank, and he's just walking on the table, and all the different strobing effects are having these different images happen on Eric's face, and it's all there. None of this is digital. It's just the way the lighting worked with his makeup and the set, and God almighty, that Devil's Night run away from the cops, and I mean, it looks old and digital now, but at the time when he hops that building and you just see his silhouette going down, totally down with it. I'm so glad you loved every minute of this movie.
Yeah, it was great. It was fun. You know what I mean? It's obviously there are some serious things in it, but like, it was fun.
Should we bring up the elephant?
Yeah, let's talk about Brandon.
You first.
All right, so Joe and I did a little bit of research into it. I guess so, and correct me if I'm wrong, because Joe and I were also talking about the Alec Baldwin thing, so I might have been mixing up what he was talking about. But so my understanding is that it was a prop gun, and the bullet was improperly made. Like, so there was the rest of the clip was supposed to have blanks in it, and the first one had the one that's just supposed to either the blanks make the sound, but the other one actually looks like a bullet, and it has it come out and everything like that. I thought
there's a whole episode of this series on
Cursed
AMC
Film.
Plus called Cursed Films.
It's a really good series.
And they go in depth on this. It's heartbreaking
I watched
to watch.
that episode. Yeah, it was kind of fascinating though to know how blanks really really brought it down, how they actually work out.
so. I guess the blank pushed out the bullet that wasn't supposed to be, that was improperly made, and that's what killed him. So the only instance I saw that could have happened in, I thought, was that opening scene.
They didn't use the shot.
Oh, they didn't.
Yeah, no, they reshot with another actor.
But was it during that? What scene was it during?
It was during the crashing of the apartment scene.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Because it seemed like it would seem like that's what it was.
And it's horrible. The way one of the people on set describe it, they say, it happened and Brandon drops, and we're all just standing there because we think this is brilliant.
Oh no.
And
They don't realize.
and then he doesn't get up, and then he doesn't get up, and it's like that's the time that they lost. And it's horrible, that story.
He was the son of
Bruce Lee, who also died very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
but
he also
natural
was
causes.
yeah.
Was
He was
it-
gassed up on steroids and all these sorts of things.
It was a brain aneurysm, right?
Oh, I thought he had like a heart attack or something, or
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I thought.
Did
that.
Brandon Lee's fiance also pass away? Like, I thought she also passed away shortly after, because the film is dedicated to the two of them, but... Or am I just... or did I misread it? I thought she also had...
Yeah, who was Eliza? Is that his fiance?
Yeah. I
I
believe
don't know.
so.
Her
Actually,
name
no.
was Eliza Hutton.
Did she die, or were they just...
Or maybe I just misread some... I thought...
No, it definitely said for Brandon and Eliza. At the end.
Yeah.
I don't think she died because she had an article last year
Maybe they
reaching
just
out 28 years after
Oh,
her
okay,
maybe they
death.
were
alright.
just dedicating it to both.
Okay,
of
because
them.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
was-
I also
She was
had read-
shattered, she says, on like NBC. It's like she was like, I was shattered by the shock and grief of losing the love of my life so senselessly.
Yeah, that was a
No,
loss.
you are right. It was a swelling of the brain caused by an allergic reaction to headache medication.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
That Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another
As
thing
Katie
that
just
that
downed 2 Tylenol.
I'll be fine.
she's fine.
I'll be fine.
She's fine.
that documentary delves into that too, like the nonsense about the Lee curse and all that, and it's just like, and how it's almost like this horrible way to sensationalize losing these two like treasures to art.
Legends.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Lee, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I was pretty hooked on that guy. I saw Big Trouble, not Big Trouble in Little China, Showdown Little Tokyo, Rapid Fire, Laser Mission. He was this incredible talent saddled with all these bad films. And even said, I still like Rapid Fire, but you can't get around that it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
He's just kind of very good in it. And him and Dolph Lundgren together in Showdown Little Tokyo. Like Brandon Lee just delivers these lines that shouldn't be funny, but he's just really good at his job. Mm-hmm. And but then The Crow, like that was the moment for him. That was when he was going to,
break out.
Oh my God! And just to have that happen, for his poor family, but also just for for us as fans. Yeah, there's like. It's like a James Dean moment, the what could have been.
Right.
Yeah. This can be the end of it if you guys, we made it sad.
The Crow is not a happy movie. It's not an entirely happy movie, which I grew up with The Crow. My mom is a 80s, 90s, we were like, one of those people, she showed me like horror movies and everything that she loved, and The Crow was one of those movies. I grew up with The Crow. I've always enjoyed The Crow. I think it's definitely a movie I will show my kids when they turn, like 11,
7.
12. 11, 12.
I saw it when I was 12.
When I know they
13.
can handle it. Kids today can handle anything. I mean, come on.
Actually, that's one of the things I was going to bring up. So of course, obviously, as I mentioned, this is the first time I watched this. I had a deja vu moment while watching it. So when is it Fun Boy, the one that he stabs with all the drugs?
Oh God, that's no, Fun Boy's the one. Yeah, the knives guy. Oh God,
That's Tintin.
Tintin's
the knives guy.
Yeah,
But the one that he stabs with the drugs.
That's Fun Boy.
Fun Boy.
Yeah. So he's lying there on the ground. He has the
Crow
what
insignia.
do you call those things?
Yeah.
The injectors.
Okay. Yeah, the
In
needles.
his
Syringe?
the syringe. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
And the crow symbol around him. So I saw that, and I
Flame.
had this moment of deja vu, and it took me back to this time when I was probably about 8 years old, but I have this memory of I was never like as a kid I was never like going to sleep, which is so different from what I am now because I'm going to bed at like 8 o'clock. But back then I was like staying up and everything like that, and the living room used to be like right outside my bedroom. Mm-hmm. So like I would walk out and try to like see what my parents were watching and stuff, and they must have been watching The Crow because I remember that when I walked out of the room they said don't look at the TV. And of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to look at the TV.
I did that once.
And it was that. I'm almost positive. Like the moment of deja vu was like, was intense. So I was like, that it must have been that moment.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Fun fact: the big villain in this movie, the main villain, you recognize him from anything recent?
He looks very familiar.
Because there's another person who really loves this movie, and as a result, cast Michael Wincott in something very recently. And the director's name is Jordan Peele.
Oh, yeah?
Is it from Nope?
And he's in Nope.
I haven't seen Nope yet.
Okay, never mind.
Same
then.
here.
But he looked really familiar. He must have been in some other stuff, too.
He was in an Eddie Murphy movie from like the late 90s where he was the villain in that, too. He's just got that incredible voice.
Yeah. He was great. I liked him a lot. He kind of looked like, not his face or anything like that, but his hair looked like the bad guy from Kindergarten Cop.
Great movie.
Is he the bad guy?
No, he's not. He's not. Like, their faces don't even
the bad
look
guy's a
alike.
little bigger from Kindergarten Cop. He's the guy, the Kindergarten Cop bad guy is the one from 3 O'Clock High, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think so. I hope I'm right.
Oh, okay. So this guy was in Along Came a Spider, Robin Hood, Prince of Time. Okay, so he's in a lot. He was in a.
Oh, he's the wise spoon, sir. In
Yeah.
Prince of Thieves. Yeah. That's right. Cool.
I love that movie.
Alien
so much.
Resurrection.
He was part of the team.
Yeah.
Just a cool actor.
Yeah.
I gotta
But
say.
yeah, definitely a cool voice. But it was almost like, come on, man, why are you going to take this guy on right now? Like, he literally just withstood 1 billion bullets from your guys.
Well, he got the heads up from his sister, friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was also a little, like, what's going on there? Well, I think we know what's
exactly
going on
what was
there.
going
Yeah,
on
yeah,
there.
you're right.
Half sister.
Yeah.
But she told him.
Can you please give that description again? Okay, the bad guys.
Girl, sister, friend.
Yes, that's just. Can we make that the tagline for this episode? Girl, sister, friend.
Yeah,
She
I'm
told him.
sorry.
She said in the car. She said, the crows is linked to the supernatural or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Right, but
they
like-
thought they took the crow out.
He's crows and
then
it's-
he shot Brandon Lee right in the shoulder, and Brandon Lee was like, "Oh."
Yeah, that was funny too.
So he thought he had the upper hand, and he did.
Yeah.
He was winning. It just was that 30 hours of pain that Brandon Lee had in his back pocket.
Yeah.
That did it. Yeah. And then that damn gargoyle, just so perfectly placed.
Yeah. A lot of blood spilling out. There's a lot of blood in the human body, I guess.
So where do we rank this in the pantheon of 90s cinema? Top tier, mid tier, bottom tier with, Beverly Hills Ninja.
I always oh.
Well, so I'm going to assume you're putting this in the top tier. What else is in the top tier then? What are we comparing it to? We're comparing it with Pulp Fiction. What else?
Pulp Fiction, top tier. Leon the Professional, top tier.
That is top tier for sure.
Yo, don't look at me. I watched horror 90s. I
Yeah.
didn't watch happy 90s.
Well, I don't think Pulp
Just
Fiction or Leon the
assume-
Professional's happy.
Yeah, no.
I didn't grow up with Pulp Fiction. I actually didn't watch Pulp Fiction until like a couple years ago because my boyfriend is into it. But-
Desperado,
Never saw Desperado.
Mortal Kombat.
oh, I know Mortal Kombat.
So you're
we
putting
own like
Mortal
two
Kombat
versions of
in the
soundtrack.
same in that class
Of like just pivotal 90s movies?
All right, so we're not necessarily judging it on
Whether or not they're good.
good. Yeah.
Mortal Kombat has peak soundtrack.
Are we saying that Mortal Kombat wasn't good?
The original Mortal Kombat I'd say is entertaining.
And the best of all the Mortal Kombat movies thus far.
I don't know if I would say that it was good. Like Pulp Fiction to me is maybe one of the 5 best movies ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't say The Crow's better than Pulp Fiction. I wouldn't.
No,
I
but-
think it
yeah.
belongs in the
I
same
don't
house.
think you can really.
But
compare
I'm just
No.
saying I don't think Mortal Kombat is on the same level.
Yo, Mortal Kombat should be top tier cinema any day. That soundtrack alone, just for the one song on the soundtrack, my family owns like 2 copies of that.
Why?
And I don't know. I just found it someday and I was
So
like, yo, we gotta
2
put this in.
people can
It's
watch it
like,
at the same time in different rooms.
Scream.
No, it's my favorite part of the song.
Scream.
Scream's up there.
The Rock.
The Rock's up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think? Pivotal 90s cinema.
I'm the wrong person to ask
Hold on.
American Beauty to
because
me.
honestly,
is-
don't watch a lot of
That's
film.
borderline, but yeah.
Yeah, borderline.
Is that 99?
It's 99. Yeah.
Yeah, it's borderline. That's
We're talking like mid 90s, huh?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. That's
Let's see.
That's
I
upper
mean,
echelon. right there.
I don't know that
Silence of the
that
Lambs?
Silence of the Lambs.
7.
7.
Yeah.
Wow, there's some good 90s movies, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Terminator 2.
Chunking Express.
Men in Black.
You were saying?
Independence Day.
I mean, I
Braveheart. She
Braveheart.
never stops talking
How
about
did we forget about Braveheart? Katie's favorite
I
movie.
hate you all. I hate you all. I
Galaxy
should just
Quest.
change my favorite pick and make you all watch Outlaw King. 'Cause
I love Outlaw King.
I've never seen Outlaw King. I'll watch Outlaw
Galaxy
King.
Quest.
It's more historically
Who's
accurate
Alex
than
Sequest?
Braveheart.
No, Galaxy Quest.
Outlaw
Oh, Galaxy
King
Quest.
Yo, that's like a good.
is so good. I would pay for my monthly Netflix just to have that waiting for me to watch it.
Outlaw King?
It's so
Total
good.
Recall.
And it's half of my my dissertation paper that I wrote for
Tank
my
Girl.
master's.
Oh my God, Tank Girl.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I don't
write
think
a
I can
thing.
have an
12
opinion
Monkeys.
because when I was growing
course
up
you
in the
can.
90s, all I watched was Disney movies,
They
Iron
count.
Giant.
animated
They
films.
count.
I don't
Iron
know that I would
Giant.
put
Is
The
it the one
Crow
with
in
Chris
the
Pine?
same-
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
one.
Chris Pine does a really great
And
Scottish
Florence Pugh.
accent.
This is from 2018.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't look at Chris Pine the same way. The joke on that was like, hey, take a look at my tree. And he's like, no, look at my tree. No. He's like, what is it? And he's like, what? And he's like, it's Chris Pine. He has a picture of Chris Pine and his pine tree.
Who does?
There's a meme online. Whenever I think of Chris Pine, I think of it where it's like, the guy's like, it's Christmas and he's got his like tree and he's trying to get his friend. He's like, hey, guess what kind of tree I have? And he's like, no. And he's like, guess what kind of tree I have? And he looks over and you see Chris Pine. And he's like, it's Chris Pine. He has a picture of Chris Pine on his pine tree. Makes me laugh every time. I'm sorry.
Street Fighter.
Don't talk to me.
That's a good one.
That's comfortably lower tier.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know that I would put The Crow in the same tier as Disney 90s movies. At least for me.
Disney
That's
has its own list.
My opinion.
My God, I mean, not to divert too far away, but let's
Candyman.
talk about the run that Disney had in the 90s. Starting with Beauty and the
Beauty
Beast.
and the Beast.
Disney had,
Starting with Beauty and the
yeah,
Beast.
Disney had a solid run in the 90s. More than solid.
The Rescuers Down Under.
I think even Toy Story came out in 99, right?
95.
95, that early, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Nightmare
Pocahontas.
Before Christmas.
And think about that, that was
Christmas.
the first of the Pixar ones.
Yep, it was the very
So,
first.
like,
A
that
Bug's
was
Life.
Disney just even blowing up even bigger,
Yep.
like just revolutionizing animation.
Hocus
Um,
Pocus.
Pocahontas.
She was my favorite Disney princess
She
growing
is
up.
my favorite Disney princess.
You say was. Who's your favorite Disney princess now?
Oh, Tiana.
Tiana, huh?
Yo, Tiana's realistic.
My niece loves
she
Tiana.
works so hard. And I was just like, I feel that, girl. I'm working hard and you're stressed out. I'm stressed out. I get it.
Yeah.
I like that she didn't, like, you know, I liked, first off, it was Disney's last at the time because now they're going back to doing another hand-drawn animated film.
Which I'm really
I'm excited
Oh, yeah?
to see them
Yeah.
return to their roots. It was their last hand-drawn movie
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Is it the
And
Princess and the Frog?
Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
Tiana, I thought, was a fantastic addition to the Disney family. The music was great. I thought she was great. I understand she might have been annoying to a lot of people. The fact that she's like, oh, it's all about hard work. I don't want to understand everybody else because it's all hard work. But that's just kind of the life she's had to live. And you have a prince who's like, I'm going to... Literally, in one of his songs, he talks about, he's like, I got a brunette on my right. And it's like, oh, yeah, ladies. His parents cut him off. And I'm like,
Yeah. I'm not saying that she's a bad Disney princess. It's just not a movie.
I think she's got one of the prettiest singing voices out of all the Disney princesses. There's a
Well,
lot. That's a
I-
judgmental thing on my part, though.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say I don't know. I could argue that, but
Yeah,
I'm not
everyone has
going
their
to.
own. Like, I've never liked Jasmine.
My favorite.
What? How do you not like Jasmine?
I just didn't like her growing up. I thought she was, like,
Yeah, I didn't like her
annoying.
growing up either.
My favorite.
Yeah, I liked her. I mean, my favorite has changed. It's now Moana. Moana
That's
slaps,
the
man.
Sultan.
I've never
That
seen it.
That movie is just fire. It's great.
Moana is great.
You know,
Moana
first
is
time I
really
watched it,
good.
I was like, you know what? I'll sit down and watch it. Blah blah blah. Man, I found myself listening to the soundtrack the next day. I was singing along. I was about to buy a Moana poster.
Yo, legit, right? It came out, and I was like, I went to theaters to go see it. I'm like, yo, that
Like,
song's
this movie is good. It's really good.
I bought
Yeah.
merch.
I believe it.
I bought a cardigan that was really cool. It had Maui's tattoos on it. I was like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah.
People are gonna get my references.
Yeah. I was like, and this is, you know, when The Rock was at. I mean, The Rock is still great. I like The Rock, but you know, this is when he was at his hype and everything like that. And I was like, I don't want to see The Rock singing. And then I was like, that song's great. Great job, Rock. Well done.
Also known as Dwayne Johnson.
I hate looking at, like, you know, 90s Disney movies that came out
Hercules.
because they bought out,
Hercules
you know,
is
20th
great.
Century
There are
Fox,
some in this room that don't like
or
Hercules.
some Fox ones, so they're incorporating, like, the
Yeah,
Swan
someone-
Princess and, like, Thumbelina and Anastasia. I'm like, but during that time, you can't really consider them part of the same company.
Well, I don't consider them.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't. They
You don't
weren't-
consider what?
So
Swan
Disney,
Princess was kind of lovely.
upon
I love the
acquiring,
Swan
so
Princess.
there was a thing online, like the animated film Anastasia, which is fantastic. One of those ones was like everyone incorporated Anastasia as being a Disney princess, but she wasn't owned by Disney at
Yeah.
the time it was
no.
made. Disney recently acquired the rights to, like, you know, Fox and some of their movies that include their animated movies. So now she's technically in the Disney lineup.
But you don't consider her.
But we don't
princess.
consider
No.
her because she was not, at the time of her making, and for years and years and years, she was never a Disney princess.
Well, if you want to go a little deeper, she's a Don Bluth creation who
Yeah.
was Disney's original gangster, and
It's
now
true.
they're back in the fold. So
Thumbelina,
she is
though.
actually
Oh.
a Disney princess, just from a
My mom
divorced
hates
parent.
that movie because I watched it to death.
Yo, the mole, marry the mole. Stupid.
The
Swan
Beetle.
Princess was my stuff too. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
love the Swan Princess.
I only really ever watched the first one. I didn't like the other ones.
Yeah, the other ones are subpar.
Brave Little Toaster.
LA Confidential,
Resting.
LA Confidential.
Copland,
Copland's good.
12 Monkeys,
12 Monkeys. Good.
I said 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, those are all good.
90s
Or
really
Goofy
brought it.
movie.
A Goofy movie, of course.
Goofy movie.
Definite bottom tier is Dragonheart.
No! I would give it a C.
Didn't you talk about Dragonheart yesterday?
No, I did not.
Someone brought up Dragonheart recently. Maybe it wasn't here.
I have brought it up though because
Maybe,
growing
yeah, maybe
up,
that's-
I loved that stupid movie. I was like, I would give it a C just because growing up, I love it, but I know it's not great.
Batman
and all
Forever.
the sequels that follow.
Is that the one with the nipples?
No, that's
Batman and
Batman
Robin. Also 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Mighty
nipples?
Cool
Yeah,
Runnings.
George
The
Clooney, they had
costume.
nipples on his costume.
Yeah.
You know,
Bad-
we could take
bad
some liberties
choices.
here.
Bad
Fern
choices.
Gully.
Fern Gully.
The Last Rainforest. And Batty is voiced by Robin Williams.
The Mighty Ducks.
That's great stuff. D2.
I actually just watched Mighty Ducks because Brian talked it up. I'm like, I'm not watching this movie. And he's like, no, like seriously, like sit down and I watched all 3 of them.
Let me tell you something about D2 the Mighty Ducks. And by the way, I'm sorry we've gotten so far off of The Crow.
This is fine. We covered The Crow. It's good.
D2 the Mighty Ducks. I love everything about that movie except when they're playing hockey. Because it is
Right?
the most unrealistic depiction of hockey that I have ever
And I
seen
love
in my life.
hockey.
Me too. Yeah.
I remember being like really upset that the original like strong guy kept getting knocked down by the new strong guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, and there's going to be a team, and he's never actually going to get his win back. I was just really upset by that as a youngin.
I think my favorite character was in all of the series. There's this cowboy.
Dwayne.
Yo, I love him
Yeah.
so much. I was like, a cowboy playing hockey? Yeah!
And he brings the rope onto the ice. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm like, foul! Foul, but awesome. Foul!
And you got the Iceland team tripping them like blatantly with the sticks, and nobody's calling anything. And then
No
you
one
got
cares about Little League rules.
You got the goalie getting tossed. The goalie get threw out of the game for fighting. That doesn't happen in hockey. You don't get thrown out for fighting.
What do you get thrown out for?
You'd have to do something egregious, like you'd have to like hit him with a stick or something to get thrown out in hockey.
In hockey, they give you like a 2 to 5 minute time to like work
It's
it,
a
like punch
timeout,
each other in the
essentially.
face for a bit.
Yeah,
Why?
Just go
Because
at it, yeah.
because when you're playing
'Cause
hockey,
it's
it gets really aggressive. It's fast and aggressive. So like when you're
Simona,
constantly
you've never
slamming
watched
somebody into
hockey.
a wall.
No.
So.
Yo, hockey's so much
No.
fun. I haven't been to a game in such a long time. I remember
last-
Florida had a team. They're no longer. They're different now. They used to. My first hockey game was the Orlando Solar Bears.
And that was an NHL team?
That was an NHL team.
The Orlando Solar Bears.
The Orlando Solar Bears. They were
My-
my first ones. I think they were.
My first game
Solar
of
Bear.
hockey was SUNY Plattsburgh's Cardinals hockey team at the field house. It was a blast watching them.
They are an affiliate.
An affiliate, but they were a thing.
They are a professional hockey team, though.
They're different now, though, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Florida has
they're
an
still
actual
called the
team.
Orlando Solar Bears.
Yo, they're still around? Yo, I gotta get a ticket.
They're a minor league affiliate for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh, that's so cute. I didn't know that. But then I think Florida actually has their own,
They have
like,
the Florida
NHL team.
Panthers now. And they're
That's not a
they're
hockey
pretty good.
animal.
They're pretty decent. Florida Panthers are,
But now
are
I'm
pretty
a-
decent.
I'm a-
But anyway,
I'm a
that
Devils
that
fan,
part
so.
that aspect of D2 the Mighty Ducks always made me really mad. And I don't know why as a kid, do you guys remember when I think it's Fulton takes the shot and the goalie catches it and there's the imprint of the puck on his hand? For some reason as a kid, I thought that was going to be so significant. And then it obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my God, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
And it meant nothing. It just meant he could shoot really hard.
I like that Disney tried to do a TV show after all that, too. They were like, we're gonna bring it back. And nobody's... And they had the animated show with the actual dogs. And you're like, what
That stuff is great.
I was gonna ask,
they're
was I the only
superheroes.
one
I had the
who
toys.
watched the animated?
I had the
No.
toys from Burger King. I think Burger King did a lot of Disney. My
Yeah.
grandmother actually still has a lot of my old like McDonald's Burger King toys I had as a kid. And they had like little like cars or something, and they had like the ducks on top of them. I'm like, I should go through those
remember
one
those.
day.
Burger King used to have the toys for Men in Black when it came out, and I wanted
had
so
one.
bad to get a neuralizer.
Prime 90s movie.
I think
Yeah.
I had the neuralizer, and I also had the little
Remember,
aliens.
Street
Oh, yeah.
Sharks.
Street Sharks.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
Street Sharks.
That was a fun animated. Cartoon.
The 90s were a fun time for cartoons.
Yeah,
it was.
90s were just a fun time, I guess. That's what we found out through this throwback series.
Face
guys.
Off,
Face Off.
No.
It's a
Total
good-
Recall.
Interview with the Vampire, The Boxer, Goodwill Hunting, as
Goodwill
good as it
Hunting.
gets.
It's not your fault.
Pierce Brosnan Bond movies, but the good ones.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love those. I'm not gonna lie.
The
I have a soft
The
spot for
Mummy?
Pierce Brosnan.
Oh,
The
Yo,
Mummy!
The
Mummy.
Mummy is great.
The Mummy.
But didn't The Mummy come out in like 99? Like the later half of the 90s?
Did you ever watch Cool World?
Yeah, with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, the really weird Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah,
I had a chance. It's on like Amazon Prime. I was like, it's a live action set in a cartoon world, in a live action world with cartoon characters in it.
Thelma and Louise, White Squall.
It's a movie that you wouldn't expect to see like one of our like highest actors like in. I went into it knowing absolutely nothing other than like, oh, live action meets, cartoon. Oh no. And then Brad Pitt showed. I'm like, stop. My boyfriend's dad loves Brad Pitt and he'll watch him in anything, and a part of me is like tempted to be like, oh, we're watching
Kind
this.
of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Credit to
I
Brad
love Who
Pitt though.
Framed
He was
Roger Rabbit.
always
They did
trying to
better.
do different things.
The Christopher Lloyd freaked me out.
He was
in
so
The Villain.
scary in that movie.
I could not watch
And
the
it
end of
didn't
that movie.
just-
Yeah,
What?
terrifying.
Yeah, no, very, very terrifying. Very terrifying. I could not, but I loved that movie. And my mom would be like, why are you watching this movie? This movie scares you. I was like, because it's good. And then I would leave the room when the ending came on.
What are you looking
The
at?
Mummy did come out in 1999,
Okay.
but The Mummy shows up on like a lot of lists that I've seen recently of like movies that just everyone loves.
Yeah, no.
Like
I,
nobody
great. I
ever
gotta
has a
look at
bad
that
thing to
movie.
say about The Mummy.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I was watching Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I turned it off
Probably liked it.
because I'm like, this is just bad.
Yeah.
And I turned on The Mummy, and it's the same exact movie premise. I think there's even the stupid,
It's just better.
goofy researcher on the ladder thing that happens in The Mummy that happens also in Jungle Cruise.
I believe
Yeah.
it.
And I turned it off too. So I was like, I haven't seen The Mummy yet.
Really?
Oh, no.
Interesting.
I don't know.
The Mummy
It's
was
on
the
the wrong
first
side of the river.
non-cartoon film that I watched. I went with my older brother and my younger sister. And I still remember to this day the scene when Evie's brother gets caught in the middle of like the crowd of zombies. They're going emo-tep, and he goes emo. And the entire audience, we all clapped. It's a great film.
It's
It's
a
every
great film,
librarian's
then.
favorite movie because
Yeah.
Evie's a strong.
And she saves
literally
the
says, she's like,
day.
and when
Emma-
she's drunk, she does the I.
Emma like
Emma
librarian.
I have thrown that line out at a friend while drinking. I've been like, "Don't talk to me.
I am a
am a
librarian.
librarian." To quote somebody.
You should all be watching The Magicians if you
I
want
love The
something that
Magicians.
appreciates
You see,
librarians.
I started watching The Magicians, and I was
I want
feeling
that job.
season 1. Then season 2, like I was,
I actually had to finish it. I think I was 2 episodes away.
Season
from
2
Activision.
got up to like a higher level.
It was really
in every
good.
way. So what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wa-
maybe I
call
gotta
it
give it
New
another shot.
Jersey.
you know what happens if you're watching it on Netflix? What happens is you can't skip the intro because in season 2 they glitch and they skip the first 3 minutes of the first episode, so you actually have no idea what's going on.
That's why I always stop it and I go back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Bottom tier 90s, Independence Day.
Agreed. I think it's
Crap.
overhyped.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
for sure.
God.
Yeah.
I really like that movie.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's my sick movie. Like when
Oh,
I'm
yeah?
sick, homesick, that's the movie I watch.
Oh yeah.
I love that movie
We're like
so much.
Mallrats is my sick movie.
top tier 90. Oh yeah, forget Kevin Smith. He's in
Yeah.
his own level in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dogma. We talked about Dogma the other day, right? Didn't we? A little bit?
I mentioned
love
Dogma.
Dogma.
Yeah.
The
Dogma.
Birdcage.
Aw,
Birdcage, that's
That's a
great
movie.
stuff.
Whenever
That
I
movie.
see it, I switch right to it.
Heat.
Heat. Oh my God,
He
Heat.
blew
Yeah.
a bubble.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
with his-
You've never
Yeah.
seen Heat?
I hear it's so
Oh.
good too, and I own it. I just have never watched it.
It is
That was from the Fight
phenomenal.
Club.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
De
blind
Niro
spot
and
for me.
Pacino. Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, 90s.
Oh, another 90s movie that I find really great is George of the Jungle.
Yo,
Brendan-
I grew up
Brendan
with that movie, and I
Fraser
see so many people from that movie, and I'm
Was
like,
so ripped.
Oh
That
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That was like the He
Who
just,
was that? Leslie Mann?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Devil's Advocate, Blair
Devil's
Witch
Advocate,
Project.
Dynamite.
Another Al Pacino one.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, I have a soft spot for that movie. It was
love that
weird. I
movie.
remember it was one of those few movies that my dad had, and I was left home alone to my own devices.
And you watched
And
the
it was
Devil's
just, I just watched it. I was like, "Ooh, it has the word devil in it, so I'm gonna watch it."
There's some
I was like, "This
pretty
is
pretty
weird."
raunchy scenes in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, and there's And
My
there's a
mom-
little movie
I was
called
also-
The Matrix.
I was kind of a latchkey kid, so like I would come home and my mom was at work, so I always put on like sci-fi where they would be showing like Child's Play, like marathoning it, and so it was like I'm just building my Harry Potter Legos, building whatever Legos I had at the time. I'd be like,
Go Chucky!
killer dolls, but my mom drew the line somewhere, and she was like, "Man, stop!" I'm like, ah.
Fargo.
Fargo, yeah.
Bound.
I don't know Bound.
It's a Wachowski movie with Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly.
Okay.
Um,
Deep Blue Sea,
Yeah.
Deep Blue Sea.
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski. Wow.
The
Uncle
Green
Buck.
Mile.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
Gem.
I love Uncle Buck. It's my favorite John
R.I.P.
Candy
John
movie.
Candy.
Only the
Lake
Lonely.
Placid.
Not as good John Candy, but still pretty
Best
good.
laugh ever done.
There's so much in the 90s.
Yeah.
The 90s was so much
Yeah.
fun.
You know what we got to talk about soon? It's not the 90s.
Blade.
The complicated relationship we have with Cold Mountain.
I've never seen Cold Mountain. Is that the one with Nicole Kidman and Jude Law?
Yeah.
We're following and really supporting the Confederate soldier.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because
Yep.
he's a Confederate soldier in the. It's based off of a book.
Is it historically accurate?
No.
Is any movie truly historic? No. There's always liberties being taken.
Yeah.
I've never seen
That's
that.
a complicated movie. Doesn't
is
count
a
for the
com-
90s. But I really do
Early
enjoy it, but I
2000s.
basically have to put on filter glasses to enjoy it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
ignore all the problems with it because it's a gorgeous movie with really good acting and
Oh,
really
yeah.
good action. And
Yeah.
Interesting.
yeah, it's got problems.
He's going to North Carolina in the movie.
But it's all shot in like Bulgaria.
Shut up.
Oh, really?
Last of the Mohicans was also made in the 90s.
Last of the Mohicans is, I don't know how we only thought of that now.
Was that other movie?
Last of the
Indian in the
Mohicans.
Cupboard? Was that 90s?
The Indian
It
in the
was
Cupboard?
the Indian in the Cupboard.
I
Yeah,
did
that
not
was
like that movie growing up. It was weird. I was
it
like,
was
what
a great
the-
movie.
Solid
Yeah.
association.
Toy
though.
Soldiers.
Toy Soldier.
What about Small Soldiers?
Small Soldiers was the one with Tommy Lee Jones
Tommy
as
Lee
a soldier.
Jones, yeah.
Toy Soldiers was Sean Astin movie where the terrorists took over the college, right?
Much different, yeah.
Yeah.
Toy Soldiers was about the toys that come to life.
No, that's Small Soldiers.
That's Small Soldiers.
Was
Toy
that Small-
Soldiers was
Oh.
the one where the terrorists
Oh,
took
I'm
over
thinking
the
about a
college.
different
Yes.
one. I'm not gonna lie. There was a couple years back, and I took a picture of it. It was really funny. I like parked at like Walmart to pick up a couple things.
And you got a Gorgonite?
No, but a guy whose car was like I was just walking in the parking lot, and the front of his grill in the front, he had like tied up to it like one of the Gorgonites, and I was like, "Yo, stop!"
Another really great 90s movie is True Lies.
True Lies is a good one.
Mhm.
That is a good one.
Oh, then there's like the college, high school romance movies like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
Aw, cool.
There's-
American Pie.
What's that Brendan Fraser one with Joe Pesci as the homeless guy, which is great.
I'm
Brendan Fraser one. I don't know.
It's like not Higher Learning. Higher Learning is that amazing movie.
Kindergarten Cop.
that's not
Love Kindergarten Cop.
there. Okay, so
With
Brendan Fraser
honors?
did
Higher
a lot.
Learning was with honors. That's Higher Learning was the John Singleton
I
film,
remember
think.
Blast from the Past and Bedazzled.
Yeah,
with
with
Brendan Fraser,
honors.
But those are like two. Like 1999 was Blast.
Blast
from
from
the
the, and that was
And
another
Bedazzled
Brendan. Those
was
are two more
2000.
Brendan Fraser movies.
Yeah.
Wow, Brendan Fraser dominated the 90s.
Past. Monkey
Yeah.
Bone.
Monkey Bone, yeah.
He
Yeah.
also did but that was 2001. He did more like go like at the tail end of the 90s, going into
The
like
2000s.
the 2000s, because then he did like Journey to the Center of the Earth. And
Brendan
he
Fraser
did
came into
Looney Tunes.
when I worked at Farmer and the Fish. He came in one night with I don't know, with a couple of his friends or
In
something.
cart.
And the moment I saw him, I was just like, just leave him alone. Don't talk to him. Don't be that guy. Don't start gushing about just
no.
shut up.
He was
Were
so
you
nice.
cool or were you
I was
like really
cool.
awkward?
I was not awkward. I was super cool. I left him alone, but I had to actually pull one of my bussers away because my busser said he didn't realize how insulting he was being because he was a kid, and he's like, "I have no idea who you are, but I know that you're famous." To Brendan
Wow.
Fraser, and I said, "Hey, come with me."
That's a rude thing to say.
What are you doing?
He's like the nicest actor. Like
Yeah.
He was really kind. He was really good to everybody, but it was just frustrating because so many people were like, "We know you," but
Yeah.
couldn't figure him out
So then you really
because he had
have-
really short hair and
Yeah.
didn't look quite as he did when he was George of the Jungle.
No,
He was super ripped back then, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
like,
he had to be. He was kind of like.
well, it was just 2014, so it wasn't like that long ago. But yeah, no, I
Yeah,
remember I was so
he
frustrated. 'cause
He suffered a lot of injuries because I was watching an interview that he gave because all the stunts that he did on the Mummy films ruined his body. Like he suffered such severe injuries that he never really fully recovered, and he had to get surgeries that just compounded issues. And
he-
eventually, he just had to stop working.
Yeah, he also, I don't know if this, like, he also
Yeah, I know.
suffered in
Emotional.
trauma. Well, I mean, more than that.
he got harassed by a really high-powered agent.
Yeah,
And
Oh,
basically
yeah.
Yeah, an
blacklisted
essay.
his career. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. He suffered an essay
yeah.
against an agent. Well, with an agent
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that.
Yeah.
What is that?
sexual assault.
sexual assault.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it basically blackballed his career because he rejected it, but also didn't say anything against the person because he was afraid, and the guy crushed him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Brendan Fraser deserves this massive comeback that he's getting.
yeah.
He had like that standing ovation, which I felt was
Yeah.
amazing.
When
for him.
was that standing ovation?
He's
It was, I
the
think,
main
last
character
week. He
in
has a new
Darren
movie.
Aronofsky's new film
The Whale.
called The Whale. Yeah, and Darren Aronofsky.
So during the
Interesting guy.
screening
Yeah.
of it,
At like
Yeah.
Sundance.
Complicated.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
actors that were there and everybody did like they had him stand up and they all like applauded him
Oh,
for
that's
coming
great.
back, and I think it's
Yeah.
safe to say that all the actors that were kind of there grew up with
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Fraser. He was kind of like in a lot of stuff you didn't think he did
Encino
dramas.
Man.
He was
Encino
like
Man, yeah.
he did dramas. I know that we're talking about more of his like comedic or like semi like action flicks
With honors, which is a good
with
job.
honors, yeah. But like I didn't grow up with knowing Brendan Fraser from dramas. I grew up with him in like George of the Jungle. I think it's safe to say that we all have like fond memories of like Brendan Fraser movies.
Yeah.
Scrubs.
And
He was
oh, that's
in
right. He was
Scrubs.
in Scrubs. He
Yeah.
played the brother.
Dudley
Yeah, yeah.
Do Right.
Dudley. Yo, don't.
that was during his blacklist period,
Yeah.
and you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that he did Dudley Do Right. But I think he's kind of like, I kind of feel bad. I'm glad that he made it back because then it's like a Rick Moranis. He had his time as well, but then he left to take care of his family, which was very brave of him. He could have kept going. At the
Yeah.
height of his career, he kind of just
Left.
left, and you were always kind of like left wondering, I mean, like, I remember I went through a phase where it's like he did like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Ghostbusters. He was kind of like there, Little Shop of Horrors, and then it's like whatever happened to him, and you find out that his wife died, and he
Stepped in.
stepped in and took care of his family, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's really probably still making
Oh,
$1
yeah,
million
no,
a
Google
year from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Also, Ghostbusters, I would say too. I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
Ghostbuster plays every year during October,
Yeah, I
even
was
for
gonna say
just
now's the
nostalgia.
time.
You have like the
Yeah.
out places like the Alabama Draft House, which I'm sure play and have merch
Yeah.
and all those.
Do you have any?
No.
merch?
And Ben, you
I don't have any
really need to
Ghostbusters
give,
merch.
No?
The
No.
Mummy
My boyfriend has a
shot.
shirt though, but I
You
don't.
gotta like
Very
Do you
old.
wear
put
it?
Jungle Cruise
Doesn't fit
out
me.
of your head because the Mummy is
It's
10
very
times
old.
better than Jungle Cruise.
I will do that.
I grew up with Ghostbusters.
And he looks
but I
very
wasn't,
handsome
like-
in that movie.
And
Just
yeah,
FYI.
he's great in that
Which
movie.
movie?
The Mummy.
The Mummy.
I was
Oh,
just
The
telling
Mummy's, like,
Ben
my
that he has to
favorite.
give the Mummy a shot.
It's just
I will.
so funny.
It's one of those movies where the sequel is really good too.
Yes.
It's like really hard because you have like a movie that does so well, and sometimes a lot of the time like sequels they make a sequel like during the hype of like writing the hype of it all, but they did like a really good job with the sequel. It's
Yeah.
it's really good. Then just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Don't touch the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Just-
well, there's just one other movie.
Yeah, we don't touch it.
Yeah.
There's an animated show too.
I loved the animated show.
It's cute,
Who
but
here's
we
a
don't
fan
touch it.
of the Highlander movies?
I love Highlander. Yeah.
There can be only one.
I love I love Highlander 3 and Highlander Endgame,
Yeah.
but I don't love the first two like at all. I
Oh,
think
no?
I'm with
wanna know
I'm with the
why-
race car driver Ricky Bobby on that one. He's like, it was crap.
I think I liked all of them. Oh, I mean, I think I thought all of them were entertaining
I
enough.
want to know why Vincent Perez was cast to play a Scotsman and Sean Connery was casted to play a Spaniard in the first Highlander movie.
If it makes you feel any better,
You never
I
know.
recently
We'll
just
never
watched
know.
The Hunt for Red October, and I saw the cast, and Sean Connery plays a Russian.
No, I've
but
seen
he
that
can't
movie.
do
He can't-
the accent. There's one actor. When he speaks, he actually attempts to do like a Russian accent, but I'm like, Sean Connery's so Scottish.
I
He
know.
can't even do.
That
I'm like,
actor
he couldn't
was Sam
do it.
Neill, but they found
Tim
the perfect.
Curry.
They found the perfect workaround because what that scene when he was quoting the Bible,
Yeah.
and it leads in speaking Russian, and then pulls out they're all speaking English. So we got around that. That was a clever.
I died.
twist.
I was the beginning of the movie showed you like I was like, is that Sam Neill? And Brian's like, yeah.
No,
I'm like,
I
is that
love
is
that
that the guy? I
movie.
was like, is that the guy from Beetlejuice? And Brian's like, yeah, I think that. I'm like, oh, that's Jeffrey Jones. I'm like, yo, this cast shouldn't work.
It
This
does,
cast
though.
shouldn't. It's like Tim Curry, Sam Neill, you know.
But
Alec
Amanda,
Baldwin. I was like,
it does
this is what
work.
Alec Baldwin. I'm like, oh my god. I had like a lot of like, what is this movie?
But Amanda, it did work.
It did, but it shouldn't. Like, just looking at the names alone, I'm like, I only know Jeffrey Jones from like from Tim
Ferris
Burton
Bueller's Day
movies
Off.
Yeah.
and like his comedy roles.
Yeah.
Tim Curry is just an anomaly. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's just weird. He's just kind of everywhere. He's just weird. Then you have like, you know, Sam Neill, who I knew like, you know, growing up, he's played like Damien in the third Omen movie, adult Damien, which at this time came afterwards because I'm like, oh, yo, he gonna get you. But in Jurassic Park, and then like
Yeah.
later on other movies, and then you have like Sean Connery. I know you. This makes sense. You would have a submarine. He looks like the type that would just have like seafaring material, like vehicles. I'm like, he just looks like it. He looks like a grumpy old fisherman.
Fair.
And then Alec Baldwin, I was like, oh, I forgot he looked like this. But I knew young Alec Baldwin from like Beetlejuice. But this one, he had his hair like dark and slicked back. And I'm like, oh, that's Alec Baldwin. He's really handsome. His eyes are so pretty. And there were a bunch of other actors, but I was just like,
They allude to that a lot in 30 Rock.
Do they really?
Yeah,
He's got
like
pretty blue eyes.
his eyes and the and there's like
Skarsgård is in it too.
Yeah.
Why is he always sweaty? Can you guys tell me that? Because like every role I've seen him in, it's kind of crazy. He's just sweating a lot.
Well, I think in Pirates of the Caribbean he's covered in ocean water.
He is, but there was like one other one it's in my head, like the scene too, and it's one of his older, like one of the more newer, I would say, ones that I've seen, and it was like he's just sweaty, and I'm like, why is he always so sweaty? But he's a good actor.
I don't.
Sweaty.
This is another
But a good
Alec
actor.
Baldwin movie that I don't know if it was in the '90s. It probably was. Glenn Ross.
Yes, it was.
Another good one.
It's funny that he's in that movie for like approximately 4 minutes, but we all call it an Alec Baldwin movie because that his presence just hangs over it for the
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah.
Not in the
Coffees
original
for
play.
closers.
Not like what?
Not in the play. That was made specifically for the film.
Interesting.
James Earl Jones was in it too.
Scott Glenn. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's from.
Also in
Silence
90s
of the
movie.
Lambs.
Oh, I get that now.
We did it.
like
We
Peter
covered the
Firth.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is I think, our throwback thing, we started talking, what did we start
This
with?
is the end of the.
We started with what? When we
A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's
No,
Tale.
Mulholland Drive. Then it was A Knight's Tale.
Mulholland Drive, A Knight's Tale, Fight Club, a Goofy movie, The
Jurassic
Crow,
Park 3.
Jurassic Park 3.
3.
And and today we had kind of a broader 90s discussion. I think that this
Yeah.
was a really awesome kind of throwback to the 90s, guys.
And
Yeah.
Joe, we understand if you want to edit this out to really just the Crow stuff.
I feel like Joe's just going to give up on this one and just say he's not even going to watch the rest of it. He's just going to say, all right, this is just going to go on the air.
I also want to
And we
announce.
don't blame you.
I also
Because
want to
we've
announce.
literally been talking for an hour and a half.
Thank you for joining us. Peace out. Goodbye.